You. When we were first looking into C-scope here in Texas, the one thing that came up over and over again, that was just sold on the premise that your students will do worse before they do better. They will fail before the golden ring comes around, and then I heard the same thing about Common Core. I was then interviewed on a radio program, and I was afraid to say that because it is so illogical in its premise. And in this room, we have people that deal with reason, logic, and common sense, and now we're being demonized for it. On that radio program, during the break, I thought the caller in will then start talking about how crazy Ms. Mack must be to say such a stupid thing like that. But I was surprised that the ones that would call in and say, yes, my superintendent told us that for it to be successful, the kids had to fail. Now, did you hear any of that on the large scale of things, and can you explain? Can you do something?
Yeah. Yes, of course we've heard things like that. And here's an example that you might keep in mind. And there's a high school in Santa Cruz, California, called Pacific Collegiate. It's a charter school. Back in about 2002, 2003, they got a new headmistress whose background was a little unusual. She had been the head of the chemistry department at Hinsdale High School. And she had a firm belief that teachers ought to know things. And so she proceeded to do the following. At that point, Pacific Collegiate was an ordinary charter. It wasn't distinguished in any way. But then she started hiring PhDs, content PhDs, no education PhDs. And you can't do that in California because such people are not certified, but there is an emergency certification. And so when she had enough of them, she, from that point on, spent almost all of her time keeping the emergency certifications in place. But within 2 years, Pacific Collegiate High School was ranked number 2 in the country among all high schools, only behind Thomas Jefferson in Fairfax County. Now, the point of that is this. The point of that is this is how fast kids change around if they're put in a position where they are allowed to learn and they're given people that can actually teach them. So this business, you got to fail before you get better, is complete nonsense. These kids are fast, they're capable, give them a chance, they'll learn right away. When you get this business where this is what happens, then this is for real what's happening.
I was just going to mention something. I have a master's degree in science, and there used to be a large fight at the university where I went between the science education majors and the actual science majors. And it always would rankle us because they would want to get into the biology club. And we would think to ourselves, how can you even know biology? You only have to take 3 hours of biology to teach biology. And and nobody used to get that. I'd go, guys, do you not get that they take one class and then they get to teach it? I have 166 hours. You know, I think that's what we're not getting. And I think what Dr. Milgram pointed out so beautifully is that you can't have people teaching a subject when they have had almost as little schooling as the person that they're teaching. It simply makes no sense at all. And the other thing that I wanted to point up to is we would laugh because we have one senator, this never happens in any other states, I'm sure, but we had one senator who is the apologist for our governor and our state superintendent and is constantly running legislation. We all, at the beginning of the year, we all look for his bills because we're like, those are the ones we've got to get. he would literally say, as a matter of fact, about the testing, the Common Core testing, well, you know that they're all going to fail because this is a much better test. And we're assuming that because it's a much better test that they're all going to fail. And on what planet are you from? What planet are you from? That people just, I think we've been so bamboozled by BS. Sorry, I hate to say that, but it's true. I mean, we sit there and think that these talking heads have some set of knowledge that we don't have. And when they say, oh, but they're all going to flunk the test because the test is so excellent that they just can't possibly meet that measurement. You know, and then somehow we think, oh, well, okay. You know, and we get so bamboozled by this. And we've really got, if it doesn't make sense to you, cry foul right then. I mean, don't wait and ruminate about it. Just go, no, I think there's a problem there. I think that's really what we have to start doing. So, yeah.
Add, to support very quickly what Jenni just said, it's a defensive political strategy. The test may be so awful that you want to be prepping the public, particularly the uninformed public, in advance. And let's get the interpretation that we want of the bad results. It's the rigorous test that is being demonstrated by the terrible results of the kids on it. And then you've convinced everybody that it wasn't a dumbed-down test, it was a rigorous test.
You should remind them of the definition of rigor.
That's right. The definition of rigor, anything that's ambiguous. The fact that a test is that students don't do well on it doesn't mean it's a hard test. It may mean it's a stupid test. It may mean that the questions are so just incomprehensible because they just don't make any sense. I have a friend that the people on this panel know. His daughter is in a public school, first grade in Massachusetts. And so, of course, they have her in Kumon so she can learn actual math. And she's doing very well. I do think that Kumon must be behind this whole thing because they are making a ton of money off of Common Core. But she's in Kumon and doing very well in Kumon. And her father asked her, do you find the Common Core math hard in your school? And she said, yes, it's hard because it's stupid. And I thought that sort of wraps it up.